Hey everybody, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today I'm going to talk about trusting the science. Yeah, and I've heard this a lot since 2020, right? It was all about trust the science this and trust the science that, and I've heard this argument back and forth about trusting the science. And the main argument is that scientists know stuff, right? That the rest of us don't know. Scientists are doing experiments and they know the truth about things that normal people just don't know. That's just the way it is. Now, if you question anything or bring up something that makes too much sense, then they'll tell you that, science learns. Science is an evolving thing and it learns new things all the time. But now in saying that, you're saying that science learns that it was wrong. It learned today that it was wrong yesterday. So something like that is continually changing and updating its information, vital information for the health of me and my family and stuff like that, for a nation, for a civilization. It's hard to just put blind faith in and trust in something that's continually learning new things and evolving, and that's just at a point blank, face value perspective, right? The nature of science and whether we should trust it. All right, that's not putting in the human element and all this other stuff. Okay, and if you do question the science, though, now that's where we get the people who are ostracized and decried as anti-vaxxers and all this, right? Because they're questioning the science. Most of these people are probably just wondering whether it's okay. They don't know. I'm just saying the majority of the people who are labeled this way, right? They just don't know. They're questioning things, which is a healthy way to be. It's a healthy way to live your life. But I have always said that scientists are fallible. They're human beings, right? And I'm sure that anybody who out there and you're on the side of don't question the science, just do whatever the science tells us to do, don't question the science, you're going to get upset when somebody says something like that. Scientists are human beings. They're not angelic creations of perfection who are unable to make mistakes or to lie or to, try to advance themselves through dishonesty or deceit or anything like that. They're not greedy. They're not corrupt. They're not greedy. No, scientists aren't like that, right? That's what we're led to believe. They are above humanity. Okay? But in the news recently, I read about a lady named Francesca Gino. She's a prominent professor at Harvard. Yeah, Harvard. Look at that thing. Doesn't that look like some kind of Masonic symbolism there? But it's Harvard, right? And she's a prominent professor at Harvard. And there's been an investigation into her research and stuff, and it turns out that she's being accused of falsifying her findings in her research about, and get this, her research is about dishonesty. That's what she's researching, and she was dishonest in her findings. Yes. So the point of this is that scientists are dishonest. These people do this research and stuff, and they will falsify the evidence. They will falsify their findings for material gain, for accolades, or whatever their reasons are, right? And because they're human, they are fallible. And I'm not saying that scientists are scumbags and all the scientists are the worst. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're human beings. They are just as fallible as the transmission mechanic or the neighborhood air conditioning repairman. They're just people. They can lie like fishermen and be greedy as stockbrokers and shit. They're just people. They can make mistakes. They can make bad decisions. They can choose their advancement, their careers over the betterment of mankind. They can do that because they're people. And obviously some of them do. Okay. And the sticker of this is that this is Harvard. All right. And being that it's Harvard, we know that this professor, we can deduce with almost 100% certainty that this professor was one of the ones during COVID screaming about, you got to trust the science. You got to trust the science. That's just, you got to trust the science, and triple masking up while she's driving alone in her car and shit. You know what I mean? That's the kind of person we're dealing with here. All right. And these findings, this research was done in 2020. So this whole time she's shouting about, maybe not literally shouting, but she was on the side of trust the science, and she would turn right back around and go in there and falsify her findings on her research about dishonesty. The irony here is just too incredible to overstate. All right. She's a rabid trust the science vaccine mandate supporter, and she's actually falsifying scientific research in 2020 while she's telling, while she's supporting at least the idea that everybody should be mandated to take vaccines and stuff. It's just, it's too good to believe, The irony here is just unbelievable. And this is a prime example of why I do not trust the science. And probably, I would bet that most scientists would agree with me. Now, all the regular layman people out there, who are trust the Gen-Xers are gonna blow a gasket when they hear this kind of stuff, that scientists are just normal people, that they'll lie on their research and, falsify their findings and stuff to advance their careers. And, normal people will throw a fit if they're not in the scientific community. But scientists just know this shit goes on. They know this happens all the time. It's been happening forever. The scientists have been busted doing this shit for decades. This isn't a new thing. They've been doing this shit for a very long time. And that is why I have a real problem with the whole just hands down 100% trust the science. Look at all the stuff science has told us. Science told us at one point that cigarettes were good for you, right? Science told us that butter was bad for you. Animal fat, all that stuff was bad for you, that we should be eating vegetable oils and all this. And then it turns out that all these vegetable oils are bad for you. Now, we're hearing that the vegetable oils are bad for you. Is that the science? Is that, now it's supposed to be butter and, animal fats are good for you? And it goes back and forth like that. How can my question is, how can science say that butter is bad for you, animal fats are bad for you, unless they know it for sure? How can they come out and say that? Why would they come out and say that? Why would they say that vegetable oils are wonderful for you if they didn't know for sure? If they're going back and forth with this shit, then they never knew in the first place. They never knew. They had no idea. It just, that back and forth stuff just makes me think that they're blowing smoke screens and getting paid under the table by these big corporations who want to sell Mazola cooking oil or whatever, And I'm pretty sure that's close to the mark, because these big corporations, all they have to do is go find a scientist with some shady morals. Hey man, we need to prove that, that carbon is bad for the atmosphere. Do some research and find us some evidence of that. You do it, you get paid. You got a job. If you can't find it, we'll find somebody who can. And what do you think the scientist is going to do? He can turn down the job, but they'll keep looking. 10, 15, 18, 20, 2,900 scientists later, they find one. Okay, you got it. Do it. Then he'll write a paper, and it's that easy. It's that common sense simple. It's not rocket science to figure out why these scientists come up with this crazy shit, and then it gets reversed later on because it was bullshit to begin with. They were on a payroll, and I'm not saying every single one of them, but the ones who get the media time, right? Those are the ones who are working for the big companies, and the big companies buy them the media time. If you want a scientist to go out and tell everybody that, that oranges are red or oranges are blue or something, then, you're going to buy him some time on CNN and set him down in that chair and have him tell everybody that oranges are blue or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? But it's just that simple. It's all about money, and just like everything else, science isn't some kind of special thing that's set aside, and there's no greed involved in it. There's no lust for fame or fortune or recognition or none of that, right? That's what we're told to believe. Like it's a special thing that's set aside. They're just altruistic, trying to help humanity 100% of the time, 100% of the scientists. None of them ever lie. None of them ever get paid to falsify, or none of them ever do anything wrong. You just trust them. That's it. And when they reverse their decision and say, hey, this is actually pretty good for you now, the stuff we told you to eat that you've been eating for the last 20 years, that shit's the bad stuff for you. Oops, oopsie daisy. Sorry about that. Well, science learns. Science learns. You still have no reason not to trust them. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist kook. That's not a reason not to trust them, because they learn. That science is always learning new things from itself. And it couldn't possibly be greed that motivated them to do any of that shit. That couldn't possibly be it. They just learned new stuff, that's all. Couldn't possibly be greed that motivated them to hide the fact that cigarettes were killing people. They hid that shit for decades. They knew it way before the public did. And we know that now, but back then, we didn't know it. They hid it. But there were scientists that did it. They found the shit out and they hid it. They figured out how to make them more addictive, and they did it. And then those same companies bought up the food manufacturing, our food industry. They bought into the food industry and brought those scientists over to the food, and figured out how to make food more addictive. And that is why all the ingredients have changed in our food we eat. That's why all that shit's changed. So when I think about that stuff and I see these people talking about trust the science, you've got to trust the science and all this, they just seem so naive to me, so blatantly, willfully ignorant to the fact of what's actually transpiring in the world. Do they actually believe that all scientists are pure of heart? Like Sir Lancelot or something? They're all just these noble, altruistic people who would just give their lives for the sake of humanity. Not a greedy bone in their bodies. Not a one of them. None of them. And this is why I say don't trust the science. And I'm not talking about, we should just do the opposite of everything that science tells us to do. That would be just as stupid as doing every single thing science tells us to do. But we should use our common sense, right? And question these things. If they're telling us that something is good for you or whatever, or something is bad for you, maybe we should do a little more research and just question things. Think about it. Think about what we're putting into our bodies, what we're allowing these people to force on us, what we're allowing them to convince us that is good, or is helpful or whatever. What we're allowing them to convince us is the truth. What we're allowing them to convince us is right or wrong. All of these things are things that we know. A lot of us, we know are the truth inherently, right? And it's just a knee-jerk reaction to question it. Like, what? It's not good. It's not good just to blindly follow anyone, anywhere, anytime. Blind followers are lost. They don't know where they are. You're just trusting the whatever you're following. And that's a dangerous path to go down. For our health, for our sanity, for our freedom, for our liberty. We shouldn't trust blindly like that, especially large institutions, because large institutions are financially motivated. They're never motivated by serving the people and their best interests. Large institutions like government, large institutions like banks and companies and education and all these huge institutions we have around us now. All right. If the government was really looking out for us, then they would try to stay out of war. They wouldn't send us over there to war. It's just obvious that war would be the last thing that they would do. They would keep us out of all war, but they don't. They don't. We know they don't. They're constantly provoking wars and skirmishes and whatever, police actions, whatever, all over the place, all the time. It's just obvious to me, and I think it's obvious to most of my generation, Generation X, that these huge institutions just do not have our best interests at heart. And to trust science, the institution of science, is akin to trusting the government or big pharma or whatever. It's the epitome of naivete. I like that word, naivete. But it is. It's the epitome of naivety. It's ignorant, and it's willfully ignorant. It's stupid to run around trusting shit like that, trusting these huge, just basically machine-like entities that will grind us into hamburger and without a thought. And I'll leave you there with that. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member, I'll put that link down in the description, or you can head over to the channel page and become a member that way. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can do so by clicking on that super thanks button down there. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I appreciate those of you who do that. Thank you very much. If you're interested in Gen X gear, we got some pretty cool stuff over there at Redbubble. Gen X things and Gen X branded stuff, t-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, all kinds of cool stuff. But I'll leave that link down in the description too for any of those of you who are interested. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. That helps out a hell of a lot. So thank you very much to those of you who do that. I really appreciate it. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks, please put those down in the comments. Or you can email us, and the email is genxthinks@gmail.com. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.